Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick video on how to write set and interval notation. It's something that we're going to use a lot when we're doing domains of functions. So I just wanted to go over a couple different examples for you and kind of tell you what each of the notations mean. Um, Now when you guys are doing the problems, I'm not going to expect you to have to write both answers, but you should be able to recognize both notations and what they both mean. Okay, so on the first one here, this is an example of set notation. Okay, and each of these things means something. Okay, so if you're talking about the domain, right, the first x that you write here. Okay, so this means the set of all real numbers. Set of all real numbers. Okay, so when you're writing the domain, right, you have to include the numbers that are going to work for your function that you're allowed to plug in, and so on and so forth. So that's always how you always want to start when you're writing your set notation is if you start with the independent variable. In this case, I'm talking about x. Okay, and then you have this straight vertical line here. Okay, and that means such that. Okay, and then after that, you're going to give what the rule is. Okay, so if you have any restrictions or anything like that, that would come after that vertical line. So this is your rule. Okay, so in this case, it's saying that my domain of my function is the set of all real numbers such that x has to be greater than 2. So anything less than 2 is not going to work for my function. Okay, so any restriction that you would find is going to go here. So restriction from equation. Okay, so that's going to go after you write the set of all real numbers. Okay, so that's how you would write set notation. Okay, now talking about interval notation. Okay, you have a couple different ways that you write things. Okay, so if you're talking about open parentheses, right, like that. Okay, so that means that anytime you have a number next to an open parentheses, that means that that number is not included. Okay, so if I have a function and it says here that I can only go from 2 to infinity, that means that I can't use 2, but right after 2 I can start to use those x values. Okay, so not included or unbounded. Okay, so the reason I'm writing unbounded is because anytime you see negative infinity or infinity, you always want to make sure that you include a open parentheses with it. Okay, so again, if this was my domain, right, this is pretty much saying that I can only go from 2 to infinity, but I'm not allowed to use 2. Okay, so for some reason 2 is not going to work in my function. Okay, okay, and this interval notation is pretty much the exact same thing as the last example in set notation. Okay. Now the only difference between this one now is anytime you see a bracket, okay, this means that the number that's next to it is included. Okay, so in this case, I am allowed to use positive 2 in my function. So anytime you see a number that you are allowed to use, you want to make sure that you have a closed bracket instead of an open bracket. And again, I see that I go from 2 to infinity, and again, infinity has an open parentheses again because I can't limit infinity, right? Infinity goes on forever. All right, and then another one that you might see a lot is if, say for example, I can't use a particular number, so x can't be, say, 5. Okay. So what I want to do when I write in interval notation, again, you always want to start from left to right. Okay, so all the way out on the left, right, you're going to start at negative infinity. Okay, so again, I'm going to leave that as an open parentheses at negative infinity. Okay, and then what you're going to do is imagine that you're walking along the number line. Okay, and as you get closer to 5, right, once I get to 5, I can't use that particular number. Okay, so I have to stop, right, and I want to include an open parentheses there, again, because I can't use 5. Okay, but I can use the numbers before 5 and I can use the numbers after 5. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to include this symbol here. Okay, so this is what stands for union. Okay, and it's the mathematical way of saying or. Okay, and what I want to include is everything after 5 as well. Okay, so I'm going to again open parentheses there at 5, and then I'm going to go towards infinity. All right, so this is saying that the domain of my function goes from negative infinity to 5 or from 5 to infinity. Okay, so both sets are included there. All right, so and I see when I have the open parentheses on 5, I can't use that number. Okay, so this x can't be 5 translates to that as interval notation. Okay, so again, if you guys have any questions, please come see me and we can practice writing interval and set notation.